Do you believe in the existence of extraterrestrials?
Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on where and when you're watching this podcast. I'm Thomas Fessler, my friends, and this is Disclosure Tonight. Happy Friday, March 21st, 2024. Is disclosure picking up? Are things going to happen? Well, hold on to your hats, friends. We have a lot of great things to talk about tonight. On that note, let me go ahead and jump into the studio. Let's get to business and figure out, well, who in the heck's in our audience? Welcome in, everybody. Welcome to Disclosure Tonight. We're going to have a bit late coming in today. You know, family business kind of stuff. We all get that sometimes. Well, let's go ahead and welcome in our audience like we like to do. Who the heck do we have out there? Meet that person. Let's go ahead and welcome in $70 million Manax and Amiga Rules. We've got Anton Ghost here along with Craig Smith, Dana Scully, Destiny Rock, Steva Kim, and Corporal Abe. How about that? I see Diva Kim, Ian Tate, Firefly Frazzle says... Geraldine Durazio, Ghost Fixer, and Gray Jedi have arrived. Welcome, my friends. Please take a seat, get ready, and hold on. We're going to have a good one. We got Gringo Suave, Ian Hernandez, JCAD, Jeff. Different way of spelling Jeff, but welcome, Jeff. Joey Stoner's here along with John Mooner, Kathy, Kelly Broughton, those piercing blue eyes. I know I saw you before the show, Kelly. Welcome, my dear lady. Kathy's here along with Maritime Unprepared, along with Marty S. We got Megan Betts and Metal Gaming. How about that? I see Mick, Mr. Joey B, Nancy Kuzmano, and our own Pitbull. Niles guy. How about that? We got Roni Deal, Ricardo Jr. is here along with Sam and Space Coast Flights. We got Steven Forbes, the super unknown. Tom Clark. Twiggy is here. Bitty. How's it going, Buck? We got Two Heads 666. We Beasties. Yankee 58, Yell Tommy Tanker, also known as Andy, joining us all the way from Bristol, United Kingdom. And we also have F5 Twister. How about that? Mike? On that note, let me go ahead and fire up the song. You know what happens next, my friends. Let's go ahead and welcome in our friends in the back. Who do we have here coming to us first from the great state of Florida? Let's welcome in Alice W. How's it going, Alice?
Hey, Thomas. Going pretty good. Hope we have a good night. I think there was some exciting stuff that I told you about with the JFK files, right?
Well, got a lot of interesting stuff to get to, Alice, tonight. Thank you for coming in, my dear lady.
Thank you.
Our next friend is coming to us from the great state of Hawaii. Welcome in our dear friend, Corporal Abe. How's it going, Abe? Long time no see.
Hey, pretty good. Glad to be back. Looking forward to another great edition of Disclosure Tonight.
Excellent. Thanks for coming in, my friend. Our next friend comes to us from the great state of Indiana. We could call him a Hoosier because he is. Daryl Zernick, how are you?
Hey, Thomas. Thanks for the show tonight. Greatly appreciate it. And I did catch the Buck Rogers reference there. Long time since I heard that.
Well, come on, Twiggy, you know.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely got to have fun with him. We got Kyle Reinhardt here, and I forget where's Kyle's from, but let's welcome in anyway. How's it going, Kyle? You're unmuted, I see. Let's move on to the great state of Wisconsin, where we're welcoming our remote targeting viewer, Laura Campbell. How's it going, Laura?
It's going great, Thomas. Just want to put out the Psionics 2 is going to be taking place March 30th. They're going to be discussing the ethics of ET communication.
Oh, what is this again?
March 30th. The Psionics little convention that they have, that summit. They just had the first one. Now they're going to have the second one.
Oh, wow.
It's free. It's online.
I did not know that. We'll have to share the link with our audience. Thank you for letting us know, my dear lady.
Yep.
Absolutely. Our next friend is coming to us from the province in Canada where all the U's are silent. Let's welcome in Mr. Michael Sokoloff. How's it going, Michael?
Doing good, Thomas. Can't wait for the show to start.
Oh, we've started. We're getting there, my friend. So let's move on quickly. Our next friend comes to us from the great state of Massachusetts, where some people like to call Daniel a masshole. How's it going?
Hey, how you doing? Good to be here. I'm just,
yeah.
Traveling, so I'll probably be on and off.
Yeah, have no fear, my friend. You're not the only masshole in the audience.
Thank you. I happen to have 2 houses in Massachusetts, so I'm really screwed. I can't even get out of state.
Thank you for coming in, my friend. Thank you very much. Yes, we've got a full agenda today. A lot of great things to go ahead and talk about. While we wait for our dearly departed, wait for our dear friend Mike to show up here. Yes, we've got, let's go in order. Let's go for the title card first. We've got David GRUSCH speaking again, coming out to talk about disclosure, working for Representative Eric Burleson's office. Before we get into the details on that, I've got a legacy interview with David GRUSCH just to remind everybody the kind of stuff David has said in the past. Let's watch this one first. Preface for the latest story coming to us from News Nation and Elizabeth Vargas reports on that note. Let's get into this. Where did I put that video? Oh, I know it somewhere. Let's get into it. Here we go, everybody. Play it.
It is 6 months to the day since former Air Force intelligence officer turned whistleblower David GRUSCH came on News Nation and made an earth-shattering claim. He alleged the U.S. government has a top-secret program that has been studying and reverse engineering non-human original technical vehicles, basically UFOs, since before World War II.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
You're kidding.
No. I thought it was totally nuts, and I thought at first I was being deceived. It was a ruse. People started confiding in me. They approached me. I have plenty of current and former senior intelligence officers that came to me, many of which I knew almost my whole career, that confided in me they were a part of a program. They named the program. I've never heard of it.
He'd never heard of the program, but now the whole world has, because not only did that interview put GRUSCH on the map, it put him in the hot seat on Capitol Hill. GRUSCH testified in front.
Just to be clear, we got the truth from David. Just to go ahead and remind everybody, the name of the program is not the program. That's what they're calling it, but there is an actual name. Be interesting to see if and when David continue.
Of Congress alongside 2 other military veterans, all 3 telling lawmakers and the public what they knew about unidentified anomalous phenomenon, UAPs, which is the new word for UFOs. What he says our government knows about them.
Do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years.
And where?
I know the exact locations, and those locations were provided to the Inspector General and some of which to the intelligence committees. I actually had the people with the firsthand knowledge provide a protected disclosure to the Inspector General.
GRUSCH is no publicity hound. Since that day, he's remained protective over those sources and very respectful of security obligations, only giving a handful of interviews on the subject. But tonight I sat down with him for a wide-ranging conversation. We started with the latest news that key portions of an unprecedented measure to disclose classified government records relating to UAPs, those measures were stripped from the annual defense spending bill. It was not the news GRUSCH was hoping for. David, we've just heard that 2 key provisions were killed from this defense bill that basically water down the requirement to make public any information about spacecraft, about alien remains. I take it you're disappointed.
Yes, thank you for having me on today. And, what we're witnessing right now is, quite frankly, the greatest legislative failure in American history. You had a very strong amendment for government transparency on this issue. Whether you believe my allegations or not, this is a government transparency issue at large, and the legislation was modeled off of previous government transparency issues. So we had a mixed bag of success, right? If we believe the conference report that was submitted last week, Section 1687, which effectively fences off money to illegal special access programs, something that Marco Rubio, Mark Warner, and his staff on the Senate Select Committee for Intelligence championed. That did make it through conference, and I do congratulate the senators that pushed hard to make sure that that was not removed during conference to help further this effort.
It leaves the door open for anything that is, quote, national security, we get to keep secret.
100%, and that's why we were going to have a neutral 9-person panel, and all that was enumerated in the Schumer rounds, amendment earlier this year, and that was not written in a vacuum. That was written, with other individuals bringing them information as well.
All right. Were you hoping to be on that panel, that 9-person panel that would make those decisions on what had to stay secret and what could be made public?
Certainly, it's not my place to be on the panel. I certainly offered through certain staff up to the White House. I would be happy to participate. I mean, I'm happy to get coffee, for God's sakes. But you do know I was actually behind the scenes interviewing former undersecretaries, former general officers, Nobel laureate type folks that would fill those specific billets on the URRB, which is the disclosure panel that was described in the Schumer amendments. So there are certainly people of high repute that were willing to serve on that panel to do their best to provide the president a recommendation on what he should disclose. And now that the panel is not signed into public law on the legislative branch side, I mean, we need to advocate for the executive branch, the Office of the President, through executive action, to instate such a body to advise him on the best course of action now that, Congress has failed to legislate appropriately. And I'm here to, praise and admonish. I mean, certainly the Senate, thank you for proposing that legislation. I'm glad you got some provisions passed. But folks in the House, I mean, total failure. It's one of the biggest failures probably in the history of Congress.
Thanks so much for watching.
So that was just a quick recap, bringing up some, if you want to call it, classic video feed of David Grusch, and we've got another interview clip we're going to bring up. Now, the interesting thing talking about this, since Mike isn't here, I'll kind of talk about this as best as I can by myself or with our friends in the back. David Grusch came out. He said a lot of very, very powerful things. And we'll be coming up in 2 years on mid-July or July, give or take. We're almost there. And not much has happened with Grusch. Heck, he even said he'd be willing to go ahead and get coffee for people if necessary. Well, he's got a new position coming in. Hopefully he'll be there to go ahead and do some great advising on this one. Let's go ahead. And as Anonymous Rex said in the chat with the first super chat of the night, very much anonymous. Thank you very much, Anonymous Rex. Chabing bling. Yes, this ain't your parents' disclosure. Yes, it's not quite where we wanted it to be, but it's somewhere hopefully we'll get to soon. On that note, let me go ahead and let's get up this. Actually, before I move on, anyone in the back have any thoughts? Did you think that when Grusch came out that we'd be sitting almost 2 years from this point that nothing would have ever taken place with him? What do you think, Ed? Not. I caught him off guard. Okay, Laura, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I just heard somebody mention, it might have been Lou, I don't remember what video, but they said he shared some information, but there's a lot more he's holding back on. So it'll be real interesting, the conversations he's allowed to share with Representative Burlinson. I don't know if he's even allowed to speak to him like that because of clearances and all that.
Potentially yes, potentially no. But if you look at our current administration, maybe if he did leak some stuff out or did tell people some stuff in Congress, I don't think our administration might be looking at the way to go ahead and actually find a way to persecute the guy. I think they may actually welcome the disclosures. At least I would hope.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Absolutely. Alice, your thoughts?
Yeah, if I remember that correctly, they kept saying they needed to go into skiffs right? Is that the word? A skiff?
For some of the information, yes, that's correct.
I noticed quite a few times they said that. Has that ever been done? Do you know?
Not to my knowledge. As far as we know, that has not gone on. The only person I believe GRUSCH has actually met with from the House of Representatives, or even from the Senate for that matter, since he had his bombshell appearance in the UFO hearings back almost 2 years ago at this point, he's only talked with Eric Burleson, and that's it. So it's been very quiet from him. You know, you would think there'd be a ton of interest to get David come in to talk about some things, but in Washington, D.C., apparently talk is cheap. Didn't happen.
Yeah, they were all saying, well, we have to meet. We do a skiff. There were, I'd say, probably 15 times that was said, and nothing's been done
Absolutely.
at all.
And Lester Nair, who's out there, he's a very outspoken disclosure advocate, has said, and at least confirmed, we'll find out, that GRUSCH still does have his clearances. So if they wanted to get him into a skiff, they can.
Yep, thank you.
Keep our fingers crossed on that one. On that note, now I've got the updated story. We wanted to give you a little preface first before we jumped into it, because we do have a lot of new people here on Disclosure tonight. Everybody's heard about David GRUSCH, not sure if everyone has seen the video clip played. Now let's go ahead and play the video clip from today. A little blurry, but it's better than nothing. Let's get to this. Where is it at? All right, here we go, everybody.
UFO whistleblower David GRUSCH has been hired by Republican Congressman Eric Burleson of Missouri. GRUSCH will serve as senior advisor to Burleson for the next 4 months. In 2023, GRUSCH came on this show and claimed that the Defense Department and its contractors were holding on to remnants of alien spacecraft to recreate state-of-the-art weaponry. He would later say the same thing in sworn testimony during a congressional hearing. Trying to investigate that secret, he says, led to death threats.
I had some unique things happen in my personal life that, were some of the causal factors for me to file a complaint, some things that my wife and I had noticed, some intimidation.
If you really believe that the government has done that in the past with people who've tried to expose this UFO program, why are you still alive? You've done more to expose it than anyone else.
Well, that's one of the reasons why I went public.
So why is GRUSCH heading back to Washington? Let's turn to News Nation's Capitol Hill correspondent Joe Khalil, who has some exclusive reporting for us. Joe.
Yeah, well, it really is amazing, Elizabeth, that for all of the things you put on his resume, including probably the world's most famous UAP whistleblower, you can now add congressional staffer to that. He's going to be working exclusively for Congressman Eric Burleson, a staffer in his office, I'm told, as a senior advisor on UAP or UFO-related issues. And we know there have been a lot of those over the last 2 years. Congress has really begun to take this issue and this space seriously with hearings, with private classified briefings that either the Defense Department or the intelligence community provides to Congress. I've heard from a lot of lawmakers that want to take this issue seriously, but oftentimes they're asking or they're saying, we don't know what kinds of questions to ask that will lead us to important information. That is why somebody like a David GRUSCH, with his experience and with the claims that he has now made under oath, is so valuable, is that he can sort of help out Congressman Burleson when he is in committee to ask the right questions, to follow the right lines of inquiry, pull the right threads, and you can just imagine how valuable having somebody like that is, not just as an outside advisor, but inside your office as a paid worker and staffer. It could be a game changer.
It could be. It's just such you're right. It's a big step to go from testifying in front of that congressional committee to now working for someone who serves on that congressional committee investigating UAPs. It's a big priority for many of those Republican committee members. Yeah. Joe Khalil reporting from Capitol.
There you go. So it comes down to the question, or if we, let me jump back into the studio here. Where am I at here? Desk solo. All right, get into this. The interesting part about David GRUSCH, actually more about the hearings. Remember when we had the hearing end of last year? Nancy Mace said, hell or high water, we're going to have this hearing. And it turned out to be, well, nothing burger again of a hearing. We did get some insight about LUE's book and other things that were going on. Not a lot of deep insight to what's going on with Disclosure, unfortunately. But if no one in Congress has tried to get in touch with David Grusch for the last year and a half, and we had the hearing end of last year, and we were supposed to have a follow-up hearing potentially before the end of the year or in the beginning of this year. Guess what? We're at March 21st. That extra hearing that, if you want to call it, Anna Paulina Luna was talking about, again, never happened. We get a lot of interesting comments. We get a lot of promises, not a lot of action in the area of disclosure, unfortunately. It's just one of those situations. We want to move the topic forward. We want to go ahead and turn this into something more than just innuendo, speculation, rumors, and other information that, like psionics, drives away people in the audience who are interested in disclosure versus bringing it all together. Let's hope David Grusch, at this particular point in time, makes his way into the halls of the House of Representatives and could potentially make a difference. Now, some people in the audience are saying some very interesting things. Cody is saying, we want proof. Yeah, we want proof. We want more than just conversation. We want to have more than just, if you want to call it, innuendo. We want actual facts. We want something that can move the court of public opinion forward. You know, the audience, not the audience, the general public just doesn't want to hear a bunch of talking heads going ahead and actually just talking about something. They want the facts. They want to know what's actually happening. Yes, we want proof. Laura Campbell, your hand is up.
Well, proof. Okay. Well, they're trying to do a little proof for you. During the Contact in the Desert this year, the theme's going to be psionics, and they like to change it up every year. So they're going to have a lot of people in related to that, including a mother and their child, and they're going to have a live demonstration, I want to say half an hour or more, of the psionics activity. So go and watch it.
I guess we're calling it
Otherwise,
psionics, but what we're talking about is really psychic abilities, right?
Yeah.
Everyone wants to
just
call
a fancy name for another. Yeah. Well, they're doing a live demonstration, so half an hour, judge for yourself. If you want to think it's a magic trick, there you have. There's one example.
Yeah. Interesting. Thank you very much for that insight, Laura. Yeah, we just have to take, yes, we want proof of something going on. It's just one of those things we'll go ahead and take a look at over time. Yes, the woman on Mars is saying proof of ETNHI and very close by, at least in the ancient past. Yes, we've got all that stuff going on down in Egypt right now, where they found these massive structures potentially beneath the Great Pyramid. Just take it all with a grain of sand. I'd say a grain of salt, but with a grain of sand at this point. Specifically because what they're calling out, what they're saying, is kind of hard to go ahead and see this stuff from space, at least with the technology platform they've got. More than anything, there's a lot of conflicting information coming on that. Now, the tales of giant structures potentially being under the pyramids, that was kind of seen by Ingo Swanner, a world-renowned remote viewer in the past. That, we'll see where it goes. The best thing they can possibly do is to go ahead, dig deep, figure out what's actually going on down there, and take it to the next level and hopefully find some answers. And if that's the case, and if the truth of the matter is we do have structures with, looks like giant spiral staircases on the outside of them that go down for over 2 kilometers down beneath the surface of the earth to support the whole Giza Plateau, you know what? Bring it on. Let's find out where it is. Let's document it. And let's get to it. Yes, Edgar Casey Evanby also talked about this, I believed, in the past. So yeah, there's been several predictions of this thing. So we'll see where it goes. Now, getting to our next story piece of the day, we've got LUE Elizondo talking on CNN about disclosure coming from the Trump administration. How about that? It's something we've talked about many times. Let's see. Oh gosh, yeah. I'm not even gonna go there at this point. Let's go ahead and what? Yeah, Lord, putting your head back and forth. I'm saying yes, we're not gonna go there on this. Yeah, let's hopefully they don't start torching Disclosure for that front. Let's go ahead and watch this clip of LUE Elizondo talking on CNN. Here we go.
My name is Luis Elizondo, and for nearly a quarter of a century, I worked with the United States government in the intelligence field. One of my jobs was to help run the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program for the Pentagon. It was there that I learned the reality that UFOs exist. Let me be clear. UAP are real.
On November 13, 2024, Elizondo testified as part of the U.S. House Committee on Oversight and Accountability hearing on unidentified anomalous phenomenon, exposing the truth. It was the second congressional hearing on UAP to feature witness and whistleblower testimony. Late U.S. Senator Harry Reid vouched for Luis Elizondo's involvement and leadership role in investigating UAPs.
You have made claims that non-human intelligence aircraft exists and that there have been federal employees that have been injured on these crashes.
That's correct.
Have non-human bodies associated with UAP crash craft retrievals been recovered?
There have been recovered biological samples from crashes.
That sounds crazy.
Well, it may sound crazy, but it doesn't mean it's not true. When you say bodies, people think an intact body, right? 2 arms, 2 legs, and bilateral symmetry. I prefer to say biologics. I was not around for the recovery of that. It was before my time.
Critics have questioned Elizondo's credibility and intentions. Some have even suggested he is still working with the government to control efforts to shape public discourse around UAP. Last year, Elizondo testified to Congress that he, quote, managed a special access program on behalf of the White House and the National Security Council in his most recent government position.
You've heard the criticism that some people think that you're deliberately misleading the public. Are you working on behalf of the government in a PSYOP program?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I'll put.
Well, they are asking some tough questions. Wasn't prepared to hear that, but yeah, it's good they're asking the questions because there's been a lot of speculation with regards to Lue's role in the past and whether or not he is, counterintelligence working for the government to go ahead and actually slow walk Disclosure going forward. It's interesting to see him asking these questions, but we kind of know the answer on that one. The answer we've heard many times.
And I'll put myself on a polygraph tomorrow.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh.
I think people want that smoking gun. They want a non-human intelligent life form, shaking hands with the president. They want a photo of that. Are we ever going to get that?
Right, and I think for some people, they're never going to have their form of disclosure until that occurs. But I would submit to you that disclosure is not an event. It's not a single event. It's a process. And I think we're well down that road. There were 5 performance observables: instantaneous acceleration, hypersonic velocity, transmedium travel, right? Low observability, anti-gravity.
Over the last year, Elizondo has made multiple media appearances and written a book. He is currently traveling the U.S. on a speaking tour about his decade-long career studying UAPs for the Pentagon.
And you paid for it, your tax dollars. And it frustrates me because you paid for something that you deserve the results of. The U.S. government is in possession of exotic technology. Technologies that are not consistent with current state-of-the-art technology.
Elizondo says the UAPs he's observed move in ways no other current state-of-the-art technology can. He says for 70 years, the government has been lying about the existence of being in possession of the technology.
These things are coming into controlled U.S. airspace completely unchallenged and are conducting what we consider as perhaps some sort of reconnaissance on our military equities, but more importantly, may even have the capability to interfere with our nuclear strike capabilities. These phenomena are occurring in the vicinity of sensitive military and government installations. That's not LUE Elizondo telling you, that's your government telling you this.
Elizondo says more whistleblowers who were also part of government programs studying UAPs will continue to come forward.
Now the government's finally coming forward, fortunately, so they're actually starting to back up a lot of what I've been saying the last 7 years. Thank God. I think some people are beginning to wise up.
What do you think disclosure might look like during the second Trump administration?
This administration is very proactive on trying to get to the bottom of this. There are key members on the cabinet that are very interested and are very motivated to continue to learn more about this incredible mystery, this phenomenon that we've been dealing with for decades.
Interesting conversation coming from LUE Elizondo. Let me get back into the studio here really quick. Interview guest who has their hands up. Nobody has their hands up. I thought they did. Interesting conversation. Let me get back in here again. Yeah, LUE Elizondo talking about, where we are with disclosure. Interesting to see that LUE still has that optimistic kind of a look, or not a look, just dialogue saying, yeah, we're looking at a positive movement towards disclosure with the current Trump administration that we're running with right now. That it's something that I've been saying for a while, and everyone's saying, where's it at? Why isn't it happening yet? Why can't we go ahead and get the answers and we want it now? Well, there's been a lot of things going on, and I guess we just have to be patient. We've been patient this long. Maybe we just have to be patient a little bit longer. Michael Sucklaw, if you have your hand up, my friend.
So his term is only for 4 months, right?
For David Grusch, yes, 4 months.
Yeah. So I'm wondering what they're hoping to accomplish in that time.
I don't know. Well, his initial booking is for 4 months. That's what they're able to get the budget for. So I have no idea nobody knows what they're going to be trying to get done in that 4 months. There aren't any hearings announced, are there, Michael?
No, not that I know of.
No. So, and it's not like the task force for disclosing national secrets. That one, they're not bringing Grusch in and paying for him. The oversight committee is not paying for him. It's coming out of the budget from Eric Burleson, one of the people in the House of Representatives. I'm sure he doesn't have a ton of budget to be there for paying for David. So I guess you probably has to take it off in bite-sized chunks to go ahead and hopefully move this needle forward. Do you think he might be successful, Michael?
He might. Things are definitely changing rapidly. So in 4 months from now, isn't there another budget vote? Is that why he's only got 4 months? Or are they hoping to maybe prepare for disclosure in that time?
The overall budget that gets voted on from the within the House and then the Senate, that's for the great part of federal government. And I don't think there was any kind of carve out in the current budget. They could have one in the future to go ahead and specifically pay for him, but that would have to be a one line item to try and get him to go ahead and be funded that way. I think it's just he only has so much money to play with that may come in on a quarterly basis for that matter, or a trimester basis. We'll have to find out.
So better to have some time than no time.
I would say so.
Yeah.
If you can't get him for the whole amount, try and get him for as much time as you can. Try and get as much work done ahead of time to go ahead and try and stack up the evidence or the information they're going to potentially need.
Yeah, or maybe even go and have a look at where these UFOs are stored.
That would be good because, when they were talking about potentially having the actual field hearings, I thought that was some of the stuff that Luna was talking about back then.
Well, Burleson, he has subpoena power, doesn't he?
No. Well, is he ahead of a committee?
I was under the impression that senators could.
No, he's a House representative. He's not a senator.
Oh, he's not.
And you'd have to be the head of a particular committee in order to be able to have subpoena power.
Oh, okay.
That's why you have James Comer, who let Anna Polina know.
Just to break in for a second.
That's why you have James Comer, who let Anna Polina know. Uh-oh. Go ahead, Daryl. You got the wrong audio you're listening to.
Sorry about that. No, Burleson is on the Government Secrets Committee.
Correct.
He is on that committee with Luna.
Right. But it's not even a committee. It's a task force.
My speaker isn't working here.
But yeah, Michael, it's a task force for that matter, not necessarily a committee, but we'll just see where it goes. All we can do is report on it. Hopefully we'll find out what information's, we'll get some insights to what's going on, and hopefully some salacious, press releases and statements coming out. Yeah, let's cross our fingers. That's about all we can do at this point. I mean, Disclosure's been dead for the last several weeks. Not a lot of things going on. So in that light, it's nice to hear GRUSCH is coming back. He's back in play again. And hopefully he can take some of that great information that he has and use that to try and move forward Disclosure.
Has crossing our fingers worked in the past?
Not unless you also cross your toes.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, sir. Sergeant Daniel, what say you?
So I think GRUSCH and LUE ELIZONdo, whatever. I think
Hold on, let me pause it.
I think as far as the NDAs, they're actively violating them, or they have permission. So I would suspect that they have permission.
No, I mean, David GRUSCH, permission to go ahead and violate his NDAs and go ahead and tell everything to Congress? Oh, hell no.
I don't know. Well, LUE ELIZONdo was saying, well, I got to be careful here because they don't let me say this or they don't let me say that. But, I mean, why do we think that David GRUSCH, why would we think that he's not? And the other thing is the good thing is
if they gave David GRUSCH the clearance and the ability, right, to go ahead and talk freely, he wouldn't have to be a paid staffer as an advisor to Eric Burleson. He could just get out there and tell everybody everything that he knows.
Well, I think Trump, he would have put the stop to this right away if we weren't going to hear anything, nothing at all.
Yeah.
I think the fact that Turner's out of there, Comer can the one that can subpoena. So when they get up together and they discussed it, he said if they need subpoena power, he'll subpoena the people in. So.
Well, Mike Turner was very instrumental from keeping the language that was in the National Defense Authorization Act and the Intelligence Authorization Act for the last couple of years. Actually, not this last time, but the year before. He was very instrumental from keeping that language out of the National Defense Authorization Act. Now, that was 2 years ago. Homer kept it out, and I'm sure if he would have had the chance a year ago, he would have done it as well. And what happened a year ago? Oh, about a year ago, give or take. That's when the same language was proposed in the Senate that they had the year before for the National Defense Authorization Act. They call it the UAP Disclosure Act. Supposedly that was written by, of all people, Carl Nell. When that was put together and when they got that out there, the second time, it could not even pass the Senate at this point in time. So even though the Democrats control the House, the Senate, they couldn't get enough votes to pass that amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act to allow all the stuff to get out there for disclosure. And it's just been if you want to call it, a traditional government cover-up. And you have the Senate this time that seemed complacent to go ahead and keep the truth from coming out.
Well, I think that Trump could give all of them top secret clearance, whatever clearances they need. I mean, I suspect he could just increase all of their clearances so they could, I mean, he's in charge of all that, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Now, bringing up Trump, and this is another good point. LUE ELIZONdo said it's a good thing going towards Trump, but you also have to look at what GRUSCH was saying. It failed in the House. It failed in the legislature, meaning the House and the Senate. Failed a couple times. This could be a good chance for the president to get out there and get out the executive pen with an executive order and sign whatever documents are necessary to go ahead and bring out the truth. Now, if you remember, Sergeant Daniel, when the Kennedy information or the Kennedy documents were going to be disclosed for JFK, RFK, and MLK, you remember there actually was an executive order. I believe it was signed on the first or second day Trump was in office that went and gave him, that he signed to go ahead and bring all that information out. Hopefully, we'll get the same thing for UAPs and UFOs. I'd like to see that.
I think he wants to be known as the greatest president, and I think that's going to add to his resume and repertoire. I mean, that's, him coming out like that's going to really put everybody's eyes on him right away. So, I mean, nobody else is going to be able to say anything like that ever.
Oh, no, I know. Absolutely, my friend. And if we get into it a little bit, if I can find the dang picture of it, here we go. Going down in history, I guess we could bring it up. I know I'll get in trouble. Hopefully it won't come and burn down my my Camaro for that matter. Let me go ahead and bring this up here really quick. I'll get to you 1 second, Daryl. Yes, we're at a point now. We are at a point where he is going to be going down in history, at least talked about for many years. What am I talking about? Oh, yeah. We've got the new NGAD fighter program that was actually, this is for our 6th generation fighter. Our 5th generation fighter, known as the F-35, has been nothing but a disaster for that front. And apparently this one's going to be coming to us from Boeing. It's a new stealth jet fighter we've got coming out. It'll handle hypersonics, a whole bunch of other things out there. Apparently this bird has been flying in one form or another for the last 5 years. And the actual signature that went out today went and actually is going to get this baby going into production. That sounds phenomenal to me. More importantly, as Evan B. calls it, or Gray Jedi first, it's the F-47. Now, Daryl Zernick, I see your hand is up. 47. Isn't that Trump's number? He's president number 47?
That's pretty funny.
It took a second or two for that to click in when I saw the press briefing this morning. And it's like, oh, there you go. I just have to wonder if they're going to go ahead and if or when he gets out of office, they're going to try and rename the program.
Faster than Mach 2, which is interesting.
Yeah. Interesting. You had your hand up, my friend. What say you?
So my sound was all screwed up, and I apologize. I had a mocha moment there.
Oh, yeah.
But Burleson being on the Secrets Task Force,
yeah,
and GRUSCH working for Burleson, I think that kind of bodes well. And I would, there's not any hearings on the books, but Helena Luna is having a JFK hearing on probably a bad date to have a hearing, April Fool's Day. For the
have they moved it to April 1st now? I have not heard. I know they talked about moving it back to April.
Yeah, April 1st. And so that probably bodes well. There'll probably be a UFO hearing for the same reason, to discuss whatever is being, released. So,
oh my God.
Anyway,
why would anyone in their right mind have their hearing on April 1st?
Yeah, that's not, no, it's not smart.
Not at all, my friend.
I mean, even Trump is starting those tariffs on April 2nd because he didn't want to do it on April 1st because everybody would think it would be he was just joking.
About those tariffs, this is like, first they were supposed to start like in January. Then they were going to start like in February or so, right? And or in March. There's like it's always supposed to have started 2 times, and every single time it gets down to the date that we're supposed to start the tariffs, don't they go ahead and push it out into the future another 30 or plus days?
Well, and usually they're getting something out of that too. So a lot of these are just, pieces on a chessboard for Trump. So
yeah, it seems to be that, friend. It certainly seems to be. Well, if you've been outside, depending on where you're at, if you're up north, don't forget to go ahead and look up. What am I talking about? Yeah. While this is over in Sweden earlier tonight, there was an amazing outburst of the Aurora Borealis. Heck, if you're up in Canada, it's been going on all along. I showed you some stuff on Monday's show, and we had St. Patrick's Day, but we've got another picture going on here tonight. Let me go ahead and bring this one up. Here we go. Yeah, this is a beautiful one. It started off about 4 or 5 hours ago, and the sky just exploded. You don't see images like this that often, my friends. And it went from really nothing to just bright pinks and everything. And then it just kind of started to settle down. and started seeing pillars of light in the sky. Just an amazing time going on. And we also had another massive, well, there was 2 M1.7 flares that went off today, full halo, although they were not that strong enough to give us a full halo burst, and they're coming right for Earth, dead on. So we'll have to go ahead and see where that goes, and maybe we'll get something like we had last year. I'd love to go ahead and see Aurora Borealis overhead in the Seattle area. Let's jump back in the studio here for a second and get into this as I work on to our next story. Yeah, Mike should be showing up, hopefully, eventually, maybe not. We'll see. He has family duty. He's working on some stuff today. Trust me, I've already said, hey, you make it on, Mike? One way or the other. Let me go ahead and get onto my dashboard here of what's all going on. Okay, about the structures that we're seeing potentially underneath the Great Pyramid. How big is this structure potentially? Well, there's actually a decent image. Let me go ahead and bring this to go ahead and show this one. Where am I at? Video full. Let's go ahead and I got to make it a little bit smaller so you can see it. There you go. If that is the Empire State Building on the right, this is how far down structures go underneath the structures of the Great Pyramid. And supposedly it goes on. Evan B is saying 1.25 miles. They're also saying that number is actually about 2 kilometers. It's an interesting sight to see. Now, again, they just need to get down there, start doing some investigations, and more importantly, start digging if they can go ahead and try and find some information or to find some details to bring forward. Let me go ahead and jump back in the studio again on this one. I've got a bunch of information here cached in Reddit, not in Reddit, talking about here on X for me to go ahead and bring up. Oh, I got the stuff there about LUE. Let me get on to the next one. We've got that one. We've got that one. All right. Not sure if anybody caught it. Not sure. Past this one. I've got some more pictures going of the structures underneath the pyramids. Let me just bring them up here again really quick so we can get through this. All right, video solo. Let me bring up a little bit higher. Here we go. So this is potentially what they were seeing coming off the sensors. The so-called the structures are the same shape as the so-called Z structure found inside the Pyramid of Khufu, above the ceiling of the so-called Pharaoh's King's Chamber. The 5 Zs, these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Appear to be connected by geometric pathways, and alongside these structures, additional secondary structures are visible from various satellite images, as shown in some of the tomographic images below. The analysis of these data, obtained using entirely non-invasive techniques, are briefly summarized below. The findings allowed us to construct a 3D model of the complex. Examination of dozens of tomographic images obtained from different angles using the Capella space and Umbra radars enabled the 3D reconstruction of most of the objects inside the pyramid of Khafre below. We present the images for 3D analysis. So again, this was seen from satellites up in high orbit. Now, usually they're not used to go ahead and see objects that are this far underground. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not this turns out to be bunk or this actually turns out to be something that's going to be real. I am going to remain on the edges on this one, not against it, not for it. We just need to get more details. Daryl, your hand is up.
Yeah, this slide right here that you're on is an interesting one of this page, because this is where people, I think, have got a misconception of what's happening here, because they use the 2 actual company names, Capella Space and Umbra Radars. Those 2 companies have said nothing about finding anything underneath the pyramid. And if you read what it says there, it says it found the objects, most of the objects inside the pyramid, not below it. But I think this is coming, or the way that Jay Anderson, or whatever his name, or Project Unity spun it, was this has been corroborated by Capella Space and Umbra radars, which is totally false.
No, and this is the imaging they got out of it, right? So it's not been confirmed.
If you read it, says inside the pyramid, not below it. So this is where it's getting blurred. They're using Capella Space and Umbra as two sources that are corroborating the evidence, but they're not. They're just corroborating what was found inside the pyramid, not underneath. And if you AI that, they'll tell you absolutely that is the case. They're not corroborating that story. And Snopes has even called it false.
Right. So time will tell. In other words, there's a lot of speculation going on. And anytime you get someone who's an engagement farmer over on X getting brought up in as the new science advisor on InfoWars, that should tell you where this is going.
Yeah.
I thought they shut that site down.
It was just shut down temporarily, I think, but it came back.
But you know what? It's out there. There's a lot of people talking about it. Even Alec Moore says, loved spiral staircases. In fact, I love them more than yesterday. I gotta love the audience for this one. They are our 13th man today. All right, let's see what else I've got here. Let me jump back into the studio here for a second as I bring up. Oh, I'm kind of small there. There we go. We got a lot of stuff going on, and yes, if you haven't seen it, let me just go ahead and bring up another one. This one was, I believe, earlier this week. Yeah, I've got some more pictures of Aurora Borealis. Why? Because it's something that I've always loved, and I just can't get enough of it. This is just a video of what was going on overhead. More importantly, here's another shot. It's just absolutely amazing. Pictures, images, and stuff that have been out there, and I just can't wait to go ahead and see more as all this stuff kind of moves along. On that note, back in guest again, Kyle Reinhardt. Your hand is up, my friend.
Hey, Thomas. Going back to what Daryl said, what was written about the underground structure, I haven't had much time to dig around on it, but I know there was a paper written in 2022. Is that what you were talking about, Daryl?
This whole thing's based off that paper.
Okay, this isn't I don't think that's that's not the recent scans of it. So if there was a critique based on just that paper, it doesn't have the new data in it. And I'm not saying it's real. I hope it is. I mean, because it's really wild, and it would change. It would certainly change history. But I haven't read a good critique of it. I mean, I haven't read anything detailed, just kind of knee-jerk reactions from scientists saying that can't be real.
Yeah, Snopes will agree with you.
Yeah,
there is no peer review.
It just comes down to they need to, if they're thinking it's something there, Daryl, they just need to go ahead and literally go investigate, right?
Yeah, I think the whole thing here, though, is the Egyptians don't want to be digging. So they're using a technology that is non-invasive. If you're reading through that article, they use that terminology in there all throughout it.
They don't want to be digging. They don't want to modify the structures, right? Yet why are they, if you follow that line, why are they currently rebuilding the Sphinx? Why did they want to go ahead and rebuild the exterior of the Great Pyramid? But under great pressure from a lot of people, they said, okay, we're not going to do it, but we're going to still move forward with the Sphinx. It just seems there's a conflict of interest potentially, or conflict of interest of what they're going to do or what they're not going to do. But either way, if this is what they're saying, just imagine they could rewrite history if this turns out to be true.
Yeah, but you're right. There's going to be a lot more evidence and science done. Why doesn't another company come along and just do another scan?
Bingo.
If Toth was right, it's a library. That would be funny.
Yeah. There was conversations of this kind of a thing coming out from, I believe, Ingalls Swan in the past. And God, who was the guy back in the 20s or 30s? Someone mentioned his name earlier in the chat today. Edgar Casey talked about this kind of stuff back in the day. So yeah, there's been a lot of people saying there are these big structures underneath the pyramid and the Sphinx. So if they're there, we've got some evidence. Let's go ahead and dig for it, see what we can find. And if there's nothing there, it's a nothing burger. But if there's something there, it could change history and humanity forever. Whoever thought the pyramids were built pulling those giant blocks with rope, hemp rope for that matter. All right, so you had to live underneath a rock today. If you didn't hear about, there was... Yeah. Well, I've got one of those. Don't I somewhere? Sounds, but no. All right. Well, there was a broadcast today from the Soul Foundation. And they had Dr. Peter Skafish, Jacques Vallée, Hal Puthoff, and others coming to talk about, if you want to call it, and Larry, I forgot Larry's last name here, and talking about disclosure, a lot of different things. And there was an interesting statement that comes from Hal Puthoff about the source of the non-human intelligence. Let's go ahead and bring up this little video clip here, and then we'll reflect on it. Go ahead and bring that up. Here we go, folks. Cross. Larger so we can get a little bit better. Let me jump into the actual post. That would have been easier, and go a little bit more, move it across. All right, let's just go for it. Here we go, everybody. Let's listen to Dr. Hal Puthoff today talking about who these aliens really are. Here we go.
Well, I think there's enough data out there, enough reports from people that we talk to in the government programs to indicate that there, in fact, are non-human intelligence beings associated with some of these craft, and they're, although have head, arm, legs, and so on, like any human would, differ significantly enough that you have to assume that either they're some advanced form of human, maybe time traveling back, as an example, or they could be a different species that broke off from us, and maybe they have set up a civilization embedded in the seabed that we don't know about, but they're went off on a different evolutionary track or whatever. But I think the evidence is strong enough from the people that we've interacted with that there are, in fact, beings associated with these craft that are significantly different from us and yet significantly similar enough to try to wrap your head around that there are other beings in the universe that we're coming across. We don't know whether they come from the future, whether they're different species from here, whether they come from different dimensions, as some quantum theorists are postulating. So it's still a big mystery. But the fact of it, for those that are deeply involved in the field, the fact of it is taken for granted at this point.
Taken for granted is a good way to put it. Mike, welcome back to the show, my friend. How you doing?
Thank you. Got into a lot of traffic. That's why I came in late. It's been hectic. It's been an FU Friday as far as
it's a fuck you Friday? We're used to those.
No, you're right, Thomas. But so far, very good show.
Yeah.
Great job, my friend.
You've been listening in. Any thoughts about GRUSCH coming back since you weren't here to talk about this? I know usually me and you don't see eye to eye on this, but the audience loves your point of view and my point of view as well, but they've only been listening to me so far.
Yeah. No.
And while you take this, I'm going to take one step away. Go ahead and run with it.
Absolutely, yeah. I know that Congress has been trying to get GRUSCH on payroll, for lack of a better term, for a long time now, since he testified publicly about 2 years ago. My concerns are they're not very specific about the role or function that he's going to play right now. I know they kept changing the initial statement that Representative Luna had made. It was first he was going to be on staff for the Congress, and now they changed it that he's going to be acting in the role as an advisor to Representative Eric Burleson. meaning he's going to be working out of Burleson's office. But they also said there's a time frame on it, and he's contracted to be working for a 4-month period. Now, they didn't specify if they could extend that. I'm sure they can if they wanted to. But for me, and the reporter who reported on this is Joe Khalil from News Nation. And I reached out to him because I have some questions about exactly what it means for David Grusch to be in the role as an advisor. I wanted to know, when is he supposed to start officially? Did he, in fact, accept this position? I asked Khalil if he knows what effect Grusch's involvement through Burleson's office is going to have on UAP disclosure. Because right now, they haven't specified exactly what that role is, what exactly he's supposed to be doing, and any information as far as why is he now in this limited capacity. This is the first questions that popped into my head that when this was announced the other day, me and Thomas were talking about, because they're very vague and short on the details about Grusch's involvement in this. And I find that to be a little odd. I'm very curious why they didn't give more specific information about Grusch at this point.
Right.
So
now, just to go ahead and clarify that, there was a post that came out from Joe Khalil earlier today. Let me go ahead and bring this up for everyone, Mike. Here we go. All right, Joe Khalil said, Grusch will not be working with the House Oversight Committee. The committee before which once he testified, he'll only be working with and advising Representative Eric Burleson, as we originally reported. Burleson serves on the Oversight Committee and the UAP Task Force, and I believe Burleson, isn't he also on the what do you call it, the Task Force for the Disclosure of National Secrets?
Yeah, he's a member of the task force that's being run by Representative Luna. But Khalil was very specific into saying that Grusch will not be working with the Oversight Committee or the task force, only Burleson.
Yes.
He's going to be on payroll as an advisor to Burleson.
You know what was actually odd of this coming out is we got the announcement of this coming from Anna Polina Luna, not coming from Eric Burleson himself. I got to wonder why.
Or Grusch. No, I wonder.
Now, there was another.
Now, if you remember.
Go ahead. You're dropping out a little bit here and there, Mike.
Put out.
Hey, Mike, your audio keeps on dropping out and you're coming back in again.
Okay, I could jump out and try to jump back in if that'll help. How am I now?
You're here now. But yeah.
Okay, good.
Just rewind 30 seconds and that way the audience can hear everybody.
Yeah. So what I was saying is, how about now? Can you hear me?
We're good now. Yes, sir.
All right, good. Perfect. Yeah, you and I heard about this announcement yesterday, and we were talking privately about some of the unanswered questions about this post. So I put up on social media to Representative Luna, I had replied to this post, and I posted the questions to her. And then after that, I didn't get a reply from her back, but she did revise her statement that she made earlier and changed it to Grusch is not going to be a member of the staff for Congress. He's going to be working directly under Burleson. So that was, I guess, her being made aware of some of the discrepancy of the initial public statement that she had made. And now we're getting this more information from Joe Khalil from News Nation.
And just to follow up on that, Joe Khalil said earlier today as well, his role will begin as a temporary 4-month post, so a third of a year.
Right. Which means, now look, you and I know realistically, especially anything to do with government or Congress.
Nothing happens
in 4 months. No, not a damn thing. Absolutely not. He'll basically go in and be familiar with getting in and out of the area he'll be working out of. And that'll be about the extent of it for about 4 months. Yeah. That's it.
It's not like we don't have any hearings or stuff scheduled or anything. Remember, we were talking earlier in the show was that, we had all these different hearings that were promised by Luna that never materialized in the past about UFOs. Just like we had her particular hearing that was going to be happening next week about the national secrets, but I think Daryl had said
1st.
It's going to be happening April 1st, April Fool's Day.
Yeah, April Fool's. Yeah, that's the date that they decided to schedule this for. Unbelievable. Right, Daryl? I mean, that's a hell of a date.
It is silly, but I will say the whole 4-month thing does ring a bell with me. And the reason why is because that is when the task force to release government secrets will be over with. So,
well, how about this? The task force so far is up and running roughly about 2 months. So it's got about 4 months left in this stint.
Right.
So you're right. That lines up, Daryl.
I mean, I really feel like this is him doing work, hopefully, to bring disclosure of some sort out from what he knows, working for Burleson, getting paid to be there. And then when it comes his time, I'm sure there will be a hearing because they're doing the hearing on the JFK files. They'll have to do a hearing on everything else, I would assume. So you'll probably see GRUSCH testify. But hopefully this is just the hallmarks of a coordinated effort to bring about something.
No, I don't see it that clearly, to be honest with you, Daryl.
Damn it, Mike.
I really don't.
Can't you just...
I know. Wishful thinking. Just let it go. But I have to be honest because that's the reporting that Thomas and I do on the show. We don't bullshit anybody. I'm not going to pull my punches. Unfortunately, it would take a hell of a lot more than that. Plus, disclosure is not scheduled to be the next topic for the task force to delve into. It's, I think, third on the list.
Well, they had JFK, RFK, and then MLK, right?
Right.
And
Correct.
then we're going to potentially get to UFOs, but there's a bunch of other stuff they want to get to as well. Hopefully they can work on more than one thing at once.
They want to get that
executive order. That executive order said the MLK, RFK, and who did I miss? JFK files have to all be out by the 22nd of April. So the third thing on the list, hopefully, is what we're all interested in.
We need to stop, Daryl. We need to stop worrying about synchronous operations. We need asynchronous operations. Take you back to your day. To go ahead and work on multiple things at the same time. All these people, there's a huge group of people that are there. They should be able to bring more than one thing out at a time, shouldn't they, Daryl?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's why I'm hoping this thing with GRUSCH is that he is working on something. Now, I understand what Mike's saying is he cannot tell everybody what he knows, obviously, but he can definitely point people in certain direction. So I'm hoping that's what's going to be going to work, while we're not working on literally out in the front of the public for UFO stuff. In the background for the next 4 months, you got GRUSCH. I think that's a good team player on the secrets task force.
I hear you. And, Dana Scully brings up, you asked about 9/11, right? At 9/11, that's right. And if they technically maybe go to 9/11 before they go to UFOs, I wouldn't kick them out of the bed because there's some unanswered questions on that one, like the 757 engines that should have slammed into the side of the Pentagon. What the hell's up with that? Where are the engines?
I don't know. I mean, we've had some people, that said that they would disintegrate, but I don't know.
I've seen plenty of big jets slam and not. I've seen the wreckage of large jets that have slammed into the side of mountains, and there's bits of seats and people here they're scattered around, but there's usually these giant, huge, mangled pieces of metal that are the engines. So hopefully we can get some answers on stuff like that as well, because it's something that I've been scratching my head on for years, saying small hole, big engines, like the round peg, square hole thing.
A good point. It is. Now, Daryl, getting back to your point about GRUSCH, but before we do that, I'm going to segue real quick into another part of what they have on their agenda for the task force. When they get to RFK, there's going to be fireworks because his son, RFK Jr., was talking on an interview the other day, and he said that when his father was murdered, that they brought in the top coroner for the Navy that had other coroners from all over the country watching him do one of the most perfect autopsies that's ever been performed. And what they found was that his father was shot 4 times from behind. And there was even muzzle flash and powder burns tattooed on the body. Now, if you watch the clip from when he was supposedly assassinated in the kitchen of the hotel, Sirhan, the assassin, approached him from the left front. So the only person that was standing behind him was his security. So if they open this up and they start bringing details like that out publicly now, it's going to be very controversial. It's not going to be what we're dealing with these Kennedy papers that came out. So that's going to take up time as well. But getting back to GRUSCH, anything that he knows that he testified about 2 years ago publicly, they haven't been able to make a move on. It's been status quo the entire time for security reasons and for reasons that Thomas and I went into detail about in regards to Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick and Arrow when they tried to get GRUSCH to give his testimony to them after the public hearing that he was at on July 26th. Arrow tried to get him in on November of 23 and wasn't able to do so. But the simple answer is all of the secrecy that these crash retrieval programs and the reverse engineering is being covered by, GRUSCH can't cut through that bureaucratic red tape. The only one who can is the current president, the current administration can declassify all of these things that are keeping this a secret, not GRUSCH. And until that's done by the White House, we're not going to get one step closer to any real truth about UAP disclosure. It has to come from the top down, from the executive branch. That's the only thing that's going to do it. Why they're doing what they're doing with GRUSCH right now, I don't have an answer for that. It really doesn't make a lot of sense to me, knowing what Thomas and I know about all of this. I don't know if it's for publicity. I don't know if it's to get GRUSCH a paycheck right now. I don't know. These are questions that I like answers from.
Now, isn't GRUSCH also now working as an executive producer on a movie in Hollywood about UFOs?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
That announcement came out not too long ago, and he should be involved heavily with that. I don't know why he would take this temporary position as an advisor to Representative Burleson. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, one thing he's got going, of course, it's always good to have money coming in for the household. His wife does work as well, so it's having a dual income is always a good thing. But going ahead and having, your feet on the fire with regards to a movie you're working on, but also if there's stuff you can get done in Washington, D.C. that can move this forward, it will give you a lot more stuff to talk about in that movie, wouldn't it?
Oh, actually, it would be good content, yeah. I don't think that's why he's doing it, but it's an interesting point, Thomas. I reached out to Joe Khalil and sent him a private message. I'm waiting to hear back from him as far as if he has any additional information that did not come out publicly. If I do, we'll talk about it on the next episode. So it should be interesting because I think there's still a lot of unanswered questions about GRUSCH's involvement now at this point in time and everything that's going on, and why it seems like, in my opinion, that they have him kind of once removed from the work that the task force is doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like it, and I want to try to get more answers on it because right now it doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, it doesn't, Mike.
So yeah, that was my point to Daryl. So that's where we stand on this.
Next, you'll be telling me that the damn Easter Bunny doesn't exist.
Yeah. Oh, well, listen, if we move on at one point to the new stealth fighter that they announced that Trump did that speech about, that they're going to be investing in this and it's going to be coming out. That should be interesting as well. So there's a lot to talk about. I mean, the government is doing what it's doing, and it seems to be dealing with different things at the moment. But like Thomas said, they don't seem too organized with what they're doing. Like with the task force, with all the different subjects on their agenda, it sounded before that Thomas was making a point that they should be more compartmentalized with the different subjects they're covering, having different groups focusing on this. And they're not doing that, which is why I think it's not as organized as it should be or could be. Right, Thomas?
Yeah, absolutely. It just seems like it's a clusterfuck, Mike. Just being honest. It's a clusterfuck in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Everyone's got one, but apparently the people in the House of Representatives and in Congress, and in the Senate, can't tell their ass from a hole in the ground.
Yeah, that seems to be the case.
Yeah.
And we've covered that every step of the way.
Now, Geraldine Durazio brings about smoking in the hospital, even doctors. What are you talking about, Germany? Because last time I was in Germany, that's what was going on there. That was a while ago, about 10 years ago, but yeah. But yeah, Mike, it's just one of those things. You expect things to move forward in Washington, D.C. My God, there's just so much infighting and things going around. Now you got all these people who are going attacking other citizens. Just like Trump said years ago, they're not going to be coming after me. They're going to be coming after you. But they're not just going after the Republicans. They're going after the Democrats, because who's been buying all the Teslas, Mike? The Democrats.
Oh, sure, because if you remember, this was supposed to be clean energy, these electric vehicles. They had incentives, tax breaks. They were really, the Democrats were pushing hard for this.
Yeah.
Now they're targeting all the owners and threatening
it's
violence.
the people who are from these environmental organizations that are actually leading up part of the charge against other citizens. For me, it just doesn't make sense.
No, doesn't make any sense to me either. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And this is what's going on.
Yeah, I know. Well, getting back to a second, and actually, Andy, you have your hand up, my friend.
Yeah, hi, Thomas. Finally made it out of work. Yeah, I want to go, as Mike's just been sort of catching up on what you were talking about earlier on in the show. Yeah, I want to sort of comment about this with the new stealth fighter, this new thing that Boeing are manufacturing or testing. Yeah, just makes me wonder. We've had a few PR disasters and disasters, unfortunately, lately. What with their jets having issues, which have cost a lot of lives, and also just in the news last week where SpaceX had to come in and recover the 2 astronauts who'd been stuck on the space station because the Starliner wasn't very good. So
they were supposed to be there for 8 days, Andy, and he ended up being there 8 months. Thanks to Boeing.
That sounds like a bad episode of Gilligan's Island almost.
It kind of makes me wonder, I'm hoping for you Americans for the amount of money that's going to be plowed into these aircraft that Boeing have actually, dare I say, got their act together.
Well, their division for doing defense is completely separate from what they were doing from NASA, and it's completely separate from what they've been doing on the 737s that have had such a great track record, my friend. Now, Boeing is a company that's initially based out of Seattle. Yes, I live a stone's throw away, well, maybe longer than about a 15-minute drive around from what used to be the largest manufacturing facility in the United States of America, if not the world, for the longest period of time. That's where they were making the 747s at one point in time. It's great to go ahead and see them have the ability to move forward, but this fighter isn't just in a concept stage, Andy. As I said earlier in the broadcast, they've had this thing in development for 5 years, just like what they had when they selected the F-35 program. There were a couple different manufacturers that got down to the end, and I think it was the one from Lockheed, and then the other one was from Northrop Grumman. Those were the two finalists. Now, the one from Northrop Grumman actually had this goofy front end on it for letting the air go through, and it had major design issues, and that's, thank God they didn't pick that one when they went with the F-35. But supposedly, again, with the F-47, that particular, they're ready to go ahead and move it forward into manufacturing. Wow, did someone just say George Foreman passed away? My goodness.
Did he really?
I don't know.
I've just been sorting some of his grills today, so
Yeah, I just read it on Facebook. So
Did he pass,
possibly.
Susan?
Yeah, apparently so.
Yeah, dies at age 76.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's not that old. I met him.
Considering our ages, Mike, it's not that old.
It's really not. But I met him in person, and I have to tell you, physically, he was a monster. I mean, he really looked like a wall with legs. I've never seen a human being that big in my life. It was amazing. This was I saw him in 1985.
Right.
I believe it was. He was in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and I had bumped into him in Resorts International Hotel. And he was an amazing physical specimen. I've never seen such a wide, large human being. It was just, I was shocking. It
what
shocked
part of
me.
that human
But
being
he
are
was
you
a nice
talking
man.
about, Mike?
No, he was very nice and very friendly in person. Nice guy. Very intimidating, though, physically. So if he passed away, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
And I think it's an early age for him to leave us at this point.
Yeah, Wildcat Mahone says, I will grill one last cheese sandwich in memory. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all his children named George. So with the George Foreman grill.
Oh, yeah.
That's what he meant. Yeah. So interesting. So I guess, life goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, getting back to the conference, actually not the conference, the podcast that went on today coming from our friends over at the Soul Foundation. Yes, we've got another clip of Jacques Vallée talking, and what he's saying is I'm most interested in today is to continue to specialize in the witnesses, because the witnesses are hurt by this, talking about the people who actually encounter these UAP, these UFOs that are out there in the sky, and maybe those that have been abducted. So let's go ahead and watch this little clip here of Jacques Vallée making some sense. Get to this. Here we go.
You know, if you had asked me 5 years ago, after we had done all the work that Hal and I and others did with Mr. Bigelow in Nevada, and with the the BATS project also, which was, to me, was a high water mark in the science, both with as Hal described, the summary of what is known in physics, in advanced sciences that can be applied today to the problem. We don't have to solve all the general things that have to do with, the cosmos and religion and all that. Those are discussions to go on. In the meantime, we have tools that we can apply in a rational way. We can measure things, and we've got computers, we can extrapolate the calculations, and we can do all that today. I mean, there is no sense to wait for the government to do something. We've got powerful computers in front of us today that can do 1,000 times what could be done at SRI in 1980. So there is no question that this is something we can do. What I'm most interested in today is to continue to specialize in the witnesses. The witnesses are hurt by this. They need advances in therapy. And what I mean is in the very structures of science and support, psychological support, and so on. And they need recognition, and they need sort of social support, which sometimes is quite extreme. I mean, anyone who has been surprised by the phenomenon is, to some extent, separated from the rest of society by the fact that he or she has had that experience, and we've done a very poor job of helping these people, helping them communicate with their environment.
You know, I have to go ahead. This is really interesting conversation coming from Jacques Vallée, but one of the things that was brought up many times by experiencers like Linda Thompson have said, one of the biggest things that LUE Elizondo hasn't done in all the conversations that he has is to actually go ahead and give some credence to the UFO experiencers out there, the people who have dealt with horrible abductions and health issues for all of their life for what went on. That seemed to be missing from his conversation. Now we know he's gone and glommed on to the whole psychic thing going on, but wonderful. But what about the experiencers, Mike? Don't you think they deserve their own equal time as well?
Yes, I do. But I also know that Lou felt that if we got into anything involving abductions, that would start to put this conversation more into the woo.
Yeah.
And he wanted to avoid that, if you remember. So I understand his points.
Well,
that would explain why we're not there.
Well, there have been a lot of people who have voiced their displeasure with regards to where the conversation has gone with Skywalker or Skywatcher, you know, and the eggs and all that kind of stuff and everything, and dealing with these psionics and the whole bit, that it's actually turned a lot of people away from disclosure at this point because of where the conversation is going. I wonder if, but Lou is kind of attached on the psionic thing, hasn't he?
He touched base on it, and we covered that when he did, but it doesn't seem like he's stuck with it. So that's a good point, Thomas. Yeah, you're right.
I would hope
it seems like people are moving away.
And people do want evidence. They want facts. And here's the thing. I may have gone through things when I was a kid. I've got fleeting memories that will never go away. I've got terror points that I will never forget. But the truth of the matter is, I have no actual evidence or proof to back up any of the things I would potentially say. And I get that, and that's why I don't go down that path that often.
And you handle it correctly, appropriately, and not like other people out there that would take the ball and run with it and really leave a bad taste in the public's mouth about something that can't be proven beyond a shadow of a doubt.
I've learned, don't eat asparagus. Pineapple, that's the key.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, you're right about that. So, yeah, but it's left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. But then again, you and I have also mentioned that this ties back into Dr. Stephen Greer. And anything involving that camp usually doesn't have a good outcome.
No, it doesn't.
So, right.
Well, the video that they had there on News Nation, when they brought out the whole thing with Jake Barber and his interview and his eyes, you couldn't miss the eyes. I'm sorry, I just cannot miss the eyes. But when he got out there talking about a lot of the different stuff, it's just like, oh yeah, that video. Sorry about that. My mind went off in a different direction. Look, something shiny. When they brought out the video, that video wasn't provided by Jake Barber. Now, News Nation didn't say where it came from, but it was stated out there in the public record that the actual video of the egg going ahead, being picked up and hauled away, that actually came from Stephen Greer's people. And more importantly, the font that they had over it, it showed it was a constructed video, Mike, because the UI on the cameras back at that time frame didn't have transparency, and you could see the area around the text that was being shown on there like it was coming from an older VCR, like a high 8 or some kind of portable recorder to that extent, had the text on there and a somewhat translucent background around the text. And if you look at any of the old recorders at the time, even the super high industrial ones like I had around here at one time, no, it's solid blocks around it. And if you look at the font, it lines up specifically with fonts that are available on the internet today that look like an old VCR font. So clearly that video was completely constructed, and they tried to make it look as real as they could. But when it came down to it, there were flaws that you can't look beyond.
Well, eventually, with all of it's a credibility killer. But once that was out there publicly, then Barber started to distance himself from that video, claiming it wasn't his video. So he didn't want that video to end up biting him in the ass.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a good point.
Well, the whole
Obviously.
Skywatcher thing and what they're doing, we brought it up when it was out there before, and when they brought it out, their second video of the preview, what's going to go, they are clearly looking to try and get some kind of a cable company or someone to go ahead and pick it up and turn what they're doing into a television show like Skinwalker Ranch, which means we're never going to learn anything.
Right. That's exactly right.
Look, it's a flashing blue light off in the distance. Remember that one?
God.
And
Yes,
all it was
I do.
something that was sitting out there in the actual facility, and they were trying to turn that into an entire episode about their flashing blue light.
Which was their own goddamn equipment.
Right. That they acted stupid like they didn't know what it was coming from.
It was an embarrassment, is what it was.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling Skywatcher, they get their own TV show like that, they're going to have similar occurrences. I don't need a crystal ball to know that would be coming.
You know, time will tell. Don't hold your breath, folks. Just like with Disclosure. No. We'll see where it goes, and if there's something that isn't right, we'll call it out. I'm sure a bunch of people out there goes, yes.
Exactly. You're absolutely right, Thomas.
Now, Andy W. in the chat, will be interesting to see where he gets on this one. He said that I don't think that the Barber interview did any favors to Cole Hart's UFO career. Andy, tell us more.
Well, no,
please do, because I can't, mate. So be my guest by all means.
You know, just the fact that like you brought up the so-called footage of the egg. Actually, you know, for all it was really hyped up, this was going to be absolutely amazing. It was going to be, you know, the best footage. It wasn't even anything to do with the potential one that Barber was involved with. You know, it was. They didn't have a lot to get out of that interview. They had the interview and they want a lot else, you know, to put with it. So they had to put a bit of infill in, and they found this other video. Now, I don't know. I'm no video expert. It could be a general one. It could be complete bunkum, you know.
Bollocks.
Yeah.
Could be that.
Yeah. You know. I think if they'd left that footage out, you know, we all know this subject can be very, very sort of hard to wrap your head around. With
it would be like going
and
ahead and having a stand to go ahead and sell hams in downtown Birmingham.
Yeah, you know, where you said, Tom, you know, where you've had your experiences, you've got nothing. You know, you were unable to record it. You know, it's all anecdotal. It's through your mouth. What you've experienced, everything I've seen, all my experiences, I've never once filmed any of this. So, you know, people can take it that I'm bullshitting them, or I'm, you know, I've only ever said which, you know, the things that I've actually experienced, but not having the you know, any film or any footage of anything, you know, it is anecdotal, and that's kind of how it came across to me, really, with the Barber. You know,
now here's the thing. Let's see if I can get this turned right. I have seen an orange orb, works pretty good, flying over in front of my house several times. I've got it on video probably 2 or 3 times already, but it's still a freaking little orange piece of stuff that's floating across the sky. And I can say, look at this. It's a UFO. Yes, it's an orb. Yes, it's orange. Yes, it's moving from horizon line to horizon line, going and doing its thing. But the truth of the matter is, it's still that there isn't any evidence besides my video going ahead and showing this orange orb flying around.
Yeah, I've had an orange orb here. I've had the white orb at work. You know, I've talked about seeing the triangle that I've seen. I've seen quite a lot of weird and wonderful things. But again, I've never managed to film it. And as we've talked about on the show in the past, you know, your mobile phone cameras are pretty good for taking, you know, selfies and daylight photos. But if you're trying to film anything at all at night,
sorry, I'm throwing it to Mocha. She's whining.
I was trying to catch one. But if you're trying to film anything at night on a mobile phone camera, you're not. The quality is absolutely piss poor, to be honest, because they can't operate in night very well. And a lot of these ones now, they're getting AI to help with.
But they've got decent sensors and really great low light. But what we're missing is the optics.
Yeah.
Of something to be able to zoom in on it and get the details and quality. Now, the last one I recorded actually looked light green going through the sky. And then as I was recording it going along, I had something that was a bright green orb, much brighter green than that object, come and buzz by my head, right by my head, right past my face to where I thought I heard something and it went past me. But when I went back and looked at the footage, it was there and it was really bright green. Now, is this something to where now, as I'm looking at it, it's coming down and sending something to look at me at the same time? It could be.
Could well be. You know, I'm a very strong believer of, you know, these things only allow us to see and film what they want us to see and film. I really strongly believe that. You know, it's where I'm doubtful on the psionics. You know, we've seen these things. You know, they've been quoted as having almost godlike abilities to just completely mess with our brains and everything. And then all of a sudden, we've got these people that can come in with a fork and bring these things to the ground. That's where, personally, I'm very skeptical.
Depends on what they're bringing to the ground. Is it if this is the same shit that hit me between the ages of 5 and 8.5 or 9 in the Chicago suburbs? No, it's beyond that. They have the ability to go ahead and flip a switch and just turn you into this euphoric state where you don't care about shit, and whatever they tell you to do, you just follow along like you're a puppy following a treat.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, so I still don't know on the barber. I'm you know, it's that's one thing where I'm very, very personally very skeptical. I'm open-minded to an awful lot, but it's just a bit too for me.
A bit too wooey for you?
Woo. Bit too woo for me, really.
Yeah.
It's claims that have been made by Barber that Thomas and I, when we first heard it, was biting off more than you can chew. He had claimed to be able, with his new company, to bring psychically these craft down to the ground and be able to photograph it. That's a bold claim. And if you make a claim like that, people would expect you to then be able to follow through with that proof, which so far he hasn't been able to do.
Mike, there was an old
whatsoever.
television show about this, and I will say, Mike, name that tune. If you say you can go ahead and bring down a craft in front of people and everything and the whole bit, stop talking about it and just fucking do it.
Exactly. That's been our point the entire time.
Exactly.
That's what we've said. Just if you can prove this and you're claiming you can prove this, then just show us already. Stop talking about it.
Yeah.
Let's
Shit or
see
get
it.
off the
Do
pot
it.
is another saying.
That's right. It is. Absolutely. So he hasn't followed through on any of the bold claims that have been made repeatedly and still are. And it's just that. It's unsubstantiated, anecdotal claims without any proof to back.
But here's the thing. If you're saying you can do this, right, and you've done it before,
right,
that means you should be able to bring out evidence the first time you fucking say it, right?
That's right. He's claimed that he's been doing this as a contractor for the government for 20 years. 20 years. And now he's coming out privately as a whistleblower. Great. Great story. Now just show us the proof. Land one of these things on live local news. Have the television cameras there waiting. Just show us. But so far, we haven't seen shit. That's the problem.
It's one of those things, Mike, where you look at this and, you know, it's shit or get off the pot. If you can go ahead and do it, you've got the ability to bring out the truth and just bring out the truth. You know, we should be at that point at this point. We shouldn't be waiting for them to be able to do this stuff, to get your funding to bring it down. They've already got the people. They've already got the team. They're spending more money on their videos and their previews than they are actually bringing down the non-human intelligence. Right. Just do it and do it now.
Right. What is it? What would he need to do that? Oh, bring it down into a field or where he's located out of, which, by the way, we showed the audience. where he's operating out of secretly, and that ranch that he's renting temporarily. But all he would need is a cell phone and a camera and just record it. Just like land it right at your feet and show us the live video footage with the metadata and give us the proof. Oh, wait, he hasn't done that.
Yeah.
Talks about it, talks about doing it, but has never followed through on any of that.
Yeah.
Now,
Uber Holder in the chat says, Mike, really quick, I no longer cold hard after that. And actually, I think that was a reputation killer for Coldhard because he went pretty deep on some of the stories he was telling. He drank the Greer Kool-Aid.
Unfortunately, it seems that way, but because of my relationship with Russ, I have no comment publicly about any of that.
Well, if they have the ability to do it, don't go and bring it out in the middle of the desert. Go on in front of the White House on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Bring it down in the middle of the boulevard so everybody can see, right, Mike? I could say go ahead and bring it down on the White House front lawn, but that would be a national security issue. Just bring it down in front of the White House on the road. It's a public street.
Fucking landed at Mar-a-Lago in Florida. You don't want to go to Washington, D.C. Whatever. You can pick a lot of different locations that would be considered credible. Be my guest. We have an open mind. Just show it to us. That's the problem. They haven't. So I don't like when people make claims that they can't back up.
No, neither
That's
do
the
I.
truth. Right.
Shitter.
You and I are on the same page.
Oh, Mike, it's like the old saying, shit or get off the pot. Right, Moose?
Absolutely it is. And so far, friend Mr. Barber has been unable to show us any shit. So it's a credibility killer, in my opinion.
You know, look before you flush. You may have a health problem.
You're right.
Oh, but
Could
Mike,
be.
I learned today if I have too many lattes in a row, you know what that does.
Oh, sure. The Hershey squirts.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I know. Scatterblaster.
Scatterblaster 2000. Haven't been there in a while.
Well,
talking
thank
about
God for that, my friend.
Oh, gosh. Yes, I do have one last news story for us today. This is an interesting one. Are there Vikings in South America? Did the Vikings actually make it to South America? Well, apparently, it looks like it could be the case, the part of the fact, Mike, because let's see if I can find this one here. We're going to cover this one when the truth comes out. Yes. There is a person who went down on investigations down in South America, and what do they find in one of the caves where humans usually can't go, but it's all restricted because of religious signification? Look at that, Mike. We actually have. This is from like the rune stones, but not the rune stones. I think it was the rune stones not the rune stones, but we had what do you call it? Different carvings of Viking writings in the past. That's one of them. But if you look at what they've got going on here, all the way down in South America, it definitely looks like they potentially have Viking writings down in South America.
Well, yeah. I mean, they were known for raping and pillaging. So it wouldn't surprise me that they made it down to South America.
Now, they
Why
made
not?
it to North America. We found plenty of evidence of that. They could have followed the coast all the way down south. You never know. They were great seafaring folk.
They were. They should check the DNA of the Nordic Vikings in the population of South America. They'll know if they were there because they were constantly raping and pillaging all along the way. So
yeah.
wouldn't be
Now,
hard to
just
prove.
one thing I want to go in here and point out. If you look in the particular writings, right, you got a bunch of old lichens that are around, but the lichens themselves are not growing into areas where the writing was. It's only on the areas where the writing is not, which means this is either something that is more recent than not, and it could be a fake, but it's something that's interesting. But it's there are some concerning evidence here if you look at the actual writings themselves, what was actually carved out of it, whether or not this is actually something that dates to that age. But you know what? Bring it on. It's something we'll report on as time goes on.
Oh, absolutely. It's very interesting. But not beyond the realm of possibility, like you pointed out. They could have just come up the coast of the Americas.
I mean, heck, they even have hieroglyphics that are written that they found down in Australia, which actually tie back to being thousands of years old.
Right. That's right. So it's possible, and as they develop this story, we'll cover it.
Oh gosh, yes.
Not bad.
It's one of the things as we work here on Disclosure tonight. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we try to cover. We try to cover different things with, with regards to disclosure, with regards to ancient civilizations, and of course with regards to science in general. So it's interesting days to say the least.
Any newsworthy stories that the public would be interested in, we will cover, like we've been doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially as disclosure right now is kind of on the back burner currently. So
wait a minute,
David.
I've got an interview here, late breaking, an interview with Representative Tim Burchett.
Okay.
Called for the government to reveal what it's spending taxpayer money on relating to unidentified aerial phenomena amid growing calls from lawmakers for increased transparency on the issue. This is, I would have to say, where did it go? Breaking UFOs alert, Mike. It's been a while since we've had one of these, but should we play the clip?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's get into this, folks. This hit the boards on Twitter a couple seconds ago, so let me go ahead and bring this one up, and let's play the clip. And I believe this is from our dear friends at News Nation one more time. Trust me, Mike, they're not a CNN 2.0, are they?
No, they are not. Yep.
Here we go.
Now I'm in the doghouse. Okay.
Of course. David GRUSCH, he's a quote-unquote senior advisor for 4 months, will advise on UAP interviews. You're one of the originals, right? You, Burleson, Anna Paulina Luna, other side of the aisle.
No, it's been before any of them. It's been Tim Burchett saying it's a cover-up. Right, Mike?
Absolutely.
That's what he's known for. Let's see what he says.
Jared Moskowitz. So tell me, what, if anything, does this mean that GRUSCH is now headed in as a government worker, I guess?
Well, he's actually, I think he's hired under Eric Burleson's office. We're allowed a certain amount under, we have a budget that we have to we rent space, we buy supplies, we do things like that, and employees. Right. So what I understand is that he would actually just be falling in under Eric's budget. So it's nothing nefarious, nothing sneaky, but it brings him in so that we can question him further. And at some point, though, we need to get to the bottom of everything that he said. And that's sort of, we've been given a, they just keep dodging us every time. They weave, we bob, and bob, we weave. It's the same old game. And all I want to know is,
what do you mean you can question him further? What does this senior advisor role mean you could essentially get more information out of him? How?
I think he can help us ask questions that need to be asked. That should be asked, that maybe we're not asking the right questions because we're not supposed experts on this. I think the bottom line is, though, what are we spending tens of millions of dollars on that our government tells us at one point tells us they do not exist, yet we have former CIA.
I like to go ahead and correct this for the record. It's not tens of millions. It's probably billions, if not more.
Folks that are telling us that they do exist, that they've diagnosed bodies, they've analyzed craft, things like that, and then we have one group telling us they do. We have an former admiral telling us they exist, but our government says they don't. Look, it's not the government's job.
Well, the admiral who said they existed, I believe he's talking about Gallaudet, right, Mike?
Yes, sir.
Gallaudet hasn't seen anything. He's only retelling stories that he's heard before, right?
Correct. You're absolutely right about that. Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Anyone that saw the hearing where he testified, that was confirmed.
Yeah.
Plus, we also covered the fact that he was brought in at the last minute by Nancy Mace to testify. And all of those witnesses that were there, they didn't repeat anything beyond what they've already said publicly for a long time now. So, yeah, you're right.
Here's one more thing. If you're anywhere from the latitude, or let's say longitude, of South Carolina or higher, and it's clear skies, go outside and look north. The aurora is hitting across the United States. We're still at a KP 5.5 to 6 solar storm going on. And if you're out there and you got clear skies, you might be able to see the aurora borealis. So let's continue on.
Yep.
Okay, I see where I'm at. 2 minutes and 4 seconds in. Let me just continue. 2 minutes and 4 seconds.
Job is to set aside what we can handle or what we think we should know. They need to turn it over. It's our money they're spending, tens of millions of dollars on this subject, and then they turn around and tell us they don't exist. But when we ask for the reports, they're all look like they've been hit with a 12-gauge shotgun. They're not complete, and everything's left out.
I asked you, I cut you off there when you said the one thing you want to know is, can you finish that thought?
I want to know what they're spending the money on.
Speaking of the money, over at the Pentagon, and this is a look, by the way, at President Trump moments ago as he's about to head out for the weekend. Speaking of the money, over at the Pentagon, sir, which is where your part of your focus has been, there's a new boss there. It's Pete Hegseth. Have you talked to him about all of this? Has he been helpful?
I have, and I wasn't going to vote for the bill, but he assured me that is something they're going to be looking at, and I want to make sure people understand all this money we're going to save with Doge if the Congress ever gets the guts to codify any of these bills instead of letting Trump carry it on.
No. I mean, sorry. I mean, has Hegseth been helpful on the UAP front?
Oh,
because the Pentagon has a say in.
I thought you were talking budgetary items. Yeah, no, he hasn't. But he's been very I didn't even ask him about it actually, but I will because when it comes around to that time to do that. Yeah, I mean, he's been very forthcoming about spending and wasteful spending, and I will guarantee that he would be one of those. President Trump has indicated to us that he wants to get to the bottom of it as well, so he works for President Trump, so I would assume that would carry over very fast.
So then if the Pentagon has the office, that Arrow office that's involved with all this, and Doge comes in and starts looking at what's what happens then, Congressman?
Of course, if it's classified, not a whole lot. That's part of the problem. And they denied Congress access to that. They denied myself access to stuff, and then they've come back around and sort of shown us stuff. It's over. This thing is over. They need to disclose everything and do it now. America needs to know. We need to demand that of our elected officials. Quit joking around about little green men and flying saucers. We're spending tens of millions of dollars on something. Dadgummit, we deserve to know. Give us the information.
That, of course, by the way, Elon Musk traveling with the president. Let me leave you with this. Now that David Grush is going to be a senior advisor to your colleague, Eric Burlison, the one question that you would ask him when you see him in the halls of Congress or wherever you might see him up on the Hill, what are you going to ask him?
How's he doing? We talk pretty regular.
beyond that.
I think I know what he knows. Okay. He doesn't have to tell me. I've been around enough. I know what's going on. And for the record, I am not suicidal. So if y'all find me tomorrow with 10 bullet holes in the back of my head, I did not kill myself. Y'all better, y'all keep the pressure. Y'all the ones that started the pressure with the major media. And please keep it up because we're going to get to the bottom of it.
We will. And all the best, sir. We'll leave it there. Have a great weekend. Tim Burchett.
Thank you, brother.
Tennessee. Talk to you soon. You got it.
But Mike, he didn't even say it's a cover-up. I wonder, is this the real Tim Burchett?
He is, but he's it sounds to me like he dropped some breadcrumbs like Danny Sheehan has done in the past. He divulged exactly what the purpose is of GRUSCH working for Burleson. They want to question him more about what he wasn't able to disclose to them 2 years ago. So now we heard it right from...
And he already says, I already know everything GRUSCH knows.
Which means Ivan was right when recently he said that there's no reason why GRUSCH couldn't disclose to Congress everything that he was testifying about 2 years ago.
Mike, we need to bring Ivan back on again. It's been a while.
Yeah, no, we can do that. I'll talk to him.
Oh, yeah.
But it seems like, that's another little breadcrumb that Burchett just dropped for the public. He knows what GRUSCH knows, and we know from the testimony that GRUSCH gave 2 years ago what that entails. it's some explosive information. And Burchett said he's not suicidal. So if he has some sort of a strange accident or a suicide, 5 shots in the back of the head, it's not him.
Well,
So,
it's been a while, and it could be some explosive action coming from Burchett. Let's just hope that doesn't wind up with some holes in his head.
oh, absolutely. But it's good to know and get confirmation publicly that he knows everything that GRUSCH does. That's the first good news I've heard in a long time.
Yeah.
So they have an idea of where to look for all that missing money, which last time we talked about this, it's $21 trillion, not tens of millions, like Burchett said. It's a hell of a lot more money than that.
They know
that
where
they've
to
been
find the
spending.
bodies, apparently.
Well, if you remember, GRUSCH testified publicly and said he has the street address where the bodies in the craft are located. So yeah, and obviously now they do. They know. So why the hell aren't they breaking those doors down?
Oh, yeah.
I would be. So that means that as far as the Congress is concerned, disclosure, they have the information that they need and have had it. So maybe things will start to go in the right direction again.
So in
I'm
other
hoping.
words, Mike, they've been there sitting on this shit for all this time. In other
2
words.
years, last time we checked. Yeah. At least 2 years. But they haven't been able to move forward on any of the information that they have. Maybe because the current administration is pro-disclosure, they'll finally be able to make some headway.
That's
Look,
that's what Lou was saying in the interview you missed before you came in today.
okay. Well, no, I saw the interview with Lou. But you've said this from day one. They would need disclosure has to come from the top down. And the things that are stopping them from bringing it out would be the classification. So the president needs to declassify all of this about these programs and make sure that Congress can move on it accurately and bring all this out publicly. Now, you and I had conversations about this very topic the other day, privately. And we know that, I mean, if you want, we could talk about it now. We could talk about it on tomorrow's show, how the government has been hiding these secret access programs, special access programs, and how they haven't been able to been brought out publicly and why, which is the reason that GRUSCH couldn't testify to Arrow.
Yeah. So, Mike, I've got a picture up coming 45 minutes ago from Ithaca, New York. The aurora is out in phenomenal ways.
Oh, it's purple. And
it's
green.
purple, it's red, it's green, it's all the different colors you'd love to go ahead and see. But yeah, there's an amazing aurora borealis going on. If I were to go ahead and bring up the planetary KP index, it's actually going up. This one just hit as we were talking. Yes, we are now up almost to a KP6 at this point. We're up to a KP 6.7. So the current solar storm started off, it's going higher, and there is no end in sight. Again, if you know, they're seeing it also in South Dakota at this point. I know it's a little bit further north. Let me get to that one. Where did that was there? Here we go. Purple skies with green and orange showing up. Yes, even in South Dakota. So a little bit further west, a little bit further north. But if you were in the northern states, go out and look up. You may be surprised in what you're able to see, Mike.
Yeah, well, I'm on the coast. I'm not that far north, fortunately. But it looks
hey,
like
they
a hell of a
saw
light
it
show.
earlier today in South Carolina, which is, I think, further south than you, isn't it?
It is, yeah, absolutely it is.
Oh, yeah.
But this is some light show going on.
Oh, it's continuing. Yeah, you know, people thought it was going to go up and pitter off. No, it's continuing to escalate. Yes. 2025 is going to be the years of aurora. Even if we don't get the disclosure we want, Mike, we're going to be getting some good auroras to go ahead and look at. If we can't go ahead and see, we're going to go ahead and take a look. So we summon Two Midgets on a Horse is saying green and deep purple in North Idaho. Wow.
Wow. Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. That's amazing. Yeah.
Gotta love this stuff. This happens.
Oh, I do.
This happens every 11 years, but you know, this year it's special, Mike.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to look
I may
up
have
and
to get
see
on a
show
plane to
like
go
this.
see one of these eventually, Mike. Yeah.
Well, thanks to the internet, we can get these pictures live in real time.
Oh, you better believe it. Yeah, in northern Wisconsin. It's cloudy, unfortunately. Thanks for letting us know, Eric. F5 Twister. Yeah, go ahead and look up Mike Suckloff. It's probably cloudy, but go look up. You never know.
Yeah, that's true. You never know.
Clouds.
I'm sorry, my friend. I am so sorry. Let's move on to a couple friends in the back with their hands up before we call it a close. Alice W. and then Ed Brown. Alice, go ahead. What say you?
Hey, Thomas. Two things. The thing you were just talking about, does that have physical effects on our bodies? Do they know?
The solar storm, I think she's talking about, Thomas.
The solar storms, yes.
Do they have wit?
Any physical effects on us?
Probably not.
No. Okay.
Usually get
My
more
other-
physical effects after the initial burst hits, and you'll get all the different X-rays and different stuff hitting the planet within a short period of time. But coming from this, it's usually all right.
Okay. And the other thing, do you think at this point Trump knows for sure whether there are extraterrestrials or not?
That's a good question. I think it would be difficult to answer at the moment, in my opinion.
Hold on.
I'd like to think so.
Got a penny here somewhere. Quarter.
Heads or tails?
I've got a quarter. Heads, he knows. Tails, he doesn't.
Go ahead.
Tails, he doesn't. 50-50.
That's what I thought.
But I have a feeling he probably does. Based on the people who he has in his administration, I would say he knows.
Okay. Great show tonight.
You know what I find interesting? When Burchett now said that he knows what Grush knows, and Hegseth is now in charge of the DOD, the Pentagon.
Yeah.
Why the hell didn't he knock on his door pretty quickly and ask him what's going on?
I'm sure
And
he
he
already
said-
has. Mike,
Well-
take it for a second, and Ed Brown's next. I'll be right back.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, no, when he was asked by the reporter on News Nation, he said that he didn't get a chance to talk to Hegseth yet. I don't know if he's lying about that or if Hegseth doesn't have any information for him yet, but I guess we'll see. Go ahead, Ed. You're next.
Well, I've said this a couple of times before, but I think the people in those new positions are just swamped with the projects that people want them to work on today. So yesterday or today, we need to give them just a little bit of time to work things out. And but I think Hegseth was a good choice. I just think he's got a lot going on his plate right now. But I wanted to say had my hand up about the images in the sky. Be careful what you ask for, because having that much change in the radiation patterns and from the solar storms is not necessarily a good thing if it keeps getting worse. We don't know where it'll stop. With CMEs or whatever, could be potentially a catastrophic event. Now I do too. Now that's pleasant news near the end of the show, isn't it? But,
it certainly is.
No, but
I wanted it.
Talking about that index being so high and not knowing where it's going to stop, it could be a real problem here in the future.
I guess we'll see as time goes on, but I really
Yeah,
hope it
today's
doesn't.
solar storm isn't going to be that big. Again, this is more from a coronal hole that's hitting the planet. We have had some, smaller CMEs that have come off from the sun, but the main reason why the aurora borealis is getting so strong is because of the weakening magnetic field around the planet coming from the
that's
pole
also
flip.
a problem if we get a magnetic reversal. They say that the magnetic north is moving faster than it's ever moved before. Now, we're talking maybe a few feet, but it's moving. It's moving. Let's make it that point.
It is, and if that keeps on going on in the whole bit, the thing that happens is when the poles go ahead and flip, the poles don't just magically flip instantly, Ed. There's actually usually a period of anywhere from 500 to 1,000 years to where the entire magnetic field around the planet shuts off. And you have to wonder, back in the days, why did so many humans go and live underground or in stone facades inside of mountains? They weren't protecting themselves from other humans or the wild fauna on the planet. No, they were there to protect themselves from what was going on in the sun.
Well, I agree. It's just if you add up all those things together, it just looks like ominous skies ahead. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend.
Holy shit.
On that note, Mike, what a great show tonight. We went a little bit late.
Yeah, but it was a great conversation. A lot of different subjects that were covered. And very interesting for a Friday. Not bad.
Not bad, my friend. Absolutely. On that note, I want to go ahead. Let me go ahead and find the one. Where is it at? I want to go ahead and get this up. First off, I want to go ahead and thank everybody for your wonderful super chats tonight and Disclosure tonight. Who am I talking about? The super chats came in from Charles Kerr, Phantomas, Wildcat Mahone, and Anonymous Rex. Thank you for everyone for your wonderful support of Disclosure tonight. More importantly, I want to thank our friends in the back for coming out tonight. And Mike, thank you for being here, my friend.
Oh, my pleasure. Sorry that I was late. Just last minute shopping that I had to get through as quickly as possible.
Oh, as we usually say, Mike, better late than never, right?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Mike, and as we usually say at the end of every episode of Disclosure tonight, eyes open, no fear, be safe, everybody. But they're going to play. Let me try it again.
Go back to Party City where you belong.
Absolutely. We'll catch you on the flip side. Good night, everybody. Y'all come back now here. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.